Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Art of Slowing Down podcast. It is your host here, Analena. And today you have the pleasure of listening to me for a solo episode. I felt inspired and I'm very excited about it. And this has to do with the topic of traditional human design, which is based on tropical astrology, and then the cosmic human design, or also called True Sidereal human design, which is based on True Sidereal astrology. And for those of you that are fairly new into my world and are into human design, so I have been on this journey for over 4+ years with human design. For the most part, I've spent with tropical human design. That's really all I was interested in. And I'm here too for manifesting generator with sacred authority. That has absolutely changed my life. How I approach business has been such a blessing. And human design overall is just such a gift to the world. And most recently, so I want to say the last 6+ months, I have been diving more and more into True Sidereal or cosmic human design, and also in particular True Sidereal astrology, because True Sidereal astrology is actually the very first time ever that I felt really connected to my natal chart in astrology. Before I was always like, yeah, well, maybe, but not really. And since human design is based on astrology, I do think, at least for myself, from my experience, it does make a big difference. But with all that being said, I'm not here to tell you if one type of astrology is right or wrong. I'm just sharing with you how I feel about it, what resonates. And what I want to do today is I'm actually going to look at my human design charts. I'm going to show you both, or talk about both, the tropical version, where I'm a 2 for manifesting generator, and then the true sidereal version or cosmic human design version, where I am a 5/1 sacral generator with very different centers defined. And what I want to actually focus on the most is the throat center, because I love to talk about expressing yourself authentically. Obviously, we are here on a podcast talking, and I'm very passionate about that. And I also recently had somebody ask me about that in particular. Okay, like, how do you do this with okay, if in one chart you have a defined throat center and the other one you have an undefined throat center, what does that really mean? So here on my tropical chart, if you're watching on YouTube, you will actually see the visuals. If you're listening on the podcast, I will do the best I can to explain it with words. So right now I'm looking at my tropical human design chart. Here I have a defined throat center, also a defined ego center, and those two are connected through the 2145 channel. And in my true sidereal human design chart, I have an undefined throat center. So the throat center is white. And I also have an undefined will center. So now I want to share a little bit about why I actually resonate with both, or have resonated with both, and what feels most true to me after actually working with both of these charts. So in the tropical chart, where I have the channel 2145, we also call this the money channel. I really resonated with this always a lot, because it's about money. It's about the materialistic world. And those of you that know me as well, I love to talk about money. And also I have the 214 channel there as well, which also is a lot about this energy. And especially gate 45 is about the actual distribution of resources. What I also really resonate with is that gate 45 is a teaching gate. And so is gate 50, that in my tropical chart I have actually 3 times defined. And one thing, though, that I have to say that sometimes made me question is the fact that when I, for example, host a masterclass or a training, I really feel my voice very strong, really amplified and all of it. But then I notice after like an hour and a half or so, when I give it 2 hours max, it's almost like I have to let my voice rest, like big time. It's almost like it needs to go take a nap. And I used to think that that's my defined will center, because the defined will center also needs rest on a consistent basis, because I really noticed this a lot. And I could not say that I have consistently access to a powerful voice. It is there, yes, but I have to be honest. It's mostly there when I'm around other people because I can also be very, very, very quiet. And growing up as a child, I also noticed many times that if I was in a store or in a cafe and I wanted to order something, like I felt like nobody was hearing me, no matter how loud I tried to be. And I could never say that I had a really powerful, loud voice, at least growing up. But again, when I saw my human design chart with a 2145 channel, what I really connected the most with was this permission for me to, I'm actually supposed to talk about money. And it's also okay to talk about myself because so much in the coaching space that I at least learned from lots of trainings and coaches is that, well, always talk about your client in the you, right? It's all about them. Don't make it so much about yourself. But I have to be honest, I love to tell stories. I love to share from my own experience. And I also have noticed that that really resonates a lot with my audience because I also, when I listen to other people, I learn the most. Also, when I read books, when they share stories. That's really how things stick with me. And then also in my tropical human design chart, my conscious sun is gate 13, which is called the storyteller. It's a lot about listening, and then you respond and you share stories. Now, I could also interpret this in a way, okay, like an undefined throat center. You're leaning back, you're waiting, you're receiving, you're listening, and then you respond. So even though in my tropical chart, I have a defined throat center, right? There were a lot of indications that would also have justified having an undefined. But of course, I never questioned that because at this time I was only into my tropical chart and I was not really interested to look any other charts that there were available. And also what really resonated with me a lot is gate 62, that I have defined conscious and unconscious both in my north node, actually in my tropical chart, which is all about details, making things practical and easy, and also speaking from your heart a lot. And that very much resonated. I talked a lot about this, that a lot of what I'm doing actually with human design is to make it practical and easy and actually understandable for people. And I do go a lot into the details with the gate descriptions I've created and how I talk in general about the specifics in human design. So, but then again, so in human design, we say that when you have a defined throat center, you have more consistent access to this throat energy. And it's actually very, very important that you consistently express yourself out into the world. And also, what is being taught is that you have a more consistent way of how you express yourself. So for me, it was like, okay, you have this 2145 channel connected to the throat center. That is the main way of how you express yourself. And here, the 2145 channel, the one thing that did resonate with me was talking about things money, but it's also about really empowering people and talking about what you want. And that was honestly quite the opposite for me growing up, where I never felt like I really know what I want. And I could say, well, maybe I was conditioned very much in this energy. And so I felt meh about it. I was trying to talk myself into it, if that's really my own voice. But there was also a part of me, to be honest, I was questioning that a little bit. But anyways, overall, because of the defined will center needing consistent time of rest, I also felt, okay, that's also then connected to the throat. So my voice is also, it's like on and off in some way. And also gate 40 defined in the chart really resonated because I like to withdraw. I like my alone time. And yeah, so either way, that's what I have in my tropical chart. And then when I learned about the cosmic human design and I eventually pulled up my True Sidereal or cosmic human design chart, I turned out in this particular chart, it says that I am now a 5-1 generator and my throat center is undefined. And now I have actually still gate 45 defined. So I have 3 hanging gates. I have gate 45 and an undefined throat center, gate 33 and gate 12. Now, how do you bring these two together now, right? Because like I said, I do resonate with having a defined throat, connected to the will center, the money channel. And I actually did a whole other YouTube video or even a podcast episode about it. And it felt true to me. So now I have an undefined throat center, and I want to share with you why I feel this has an even deeper resonance with me. First, I was sharing with you that I have a very big resonance with gate 45 defined, right? Because it's a very strong teaching energy. It's about also money, distribution of resources in a fair way for the community, for the tribe. And now I also have gate 33 defined and no longer gate 13, but gate 13 and gate 33, they really talk a lot to each other because they're part of a channel. And gate 33 is also a lot of this energy of storytelling as well. And it's also about retreat, where we need to go back and hide away from all the distractions in the world and then come back out into the world and be really mindful and then share with our authentic voice what feels true in our hearts. And it's also something that very, very, very much resonates with me. And then I have also gate 12. And gate 12 is also one of these gates that we say in human design. It's like if you look for some markers in a chart, that is a teaching gate. And again, for those of you that know me or have been in my work for quite some time, since the very beginning when human design found me, I had this really big confirmation of like, yeah, I'm supposed to be a teacher. Because actually, when I was in high school, I always was really, really good at helping other students improve their grades. I was doing some tutoring and things like that, especially in math. And I wanted to be a math teacher, at least a teacher of some form. But then it turned out to be different, right? And we I went on my own journey, and then it became more in the spiritual realm with human design, gene keys, and these things. And I love to teach. I love to talk about these things. So while I found the confirmation for the teaching in my tropical chart in the gate 45, in the triple gate 50, that was for me like, okay, yeah, here I'm a teacher. That was just the confirmation I was looking for. Now my True Sidereal chart, it's also again through gate 45 and now also through gate 12. And what's interesting here, and this is why it's even a little bit greater resonance for me, is that both of my north nodes, so one of my north node is gate 45, my conscious one, and my unconscious north node is gate 12, which I find very interesting. So both of these teaching energies is like where life is pulling me towards, right? Something I also need to get a little bit out of my comfort zone to stretch myself into this teaching energy. And I also really resonate that the 45 is in line 5, which is this energy of providing practical solutions that I found before in my chart in the tropical and gate 62 more. And then gate 12 is in line 2, which is that hermit, effortlessness, ease kind of energy that also deeply resonates with me. I mean, I'm a 2-4 profile in tropical human design, and that profile, I absolutely love it. And that gave me also so much confirmation. And this is just to show you right now, okay, now my chart is all different, but I find these different elements back in other charts and different placements. And ultimately, all that human design is here, again, is to confirm something that you know about yourself, especially something that you know you're passionate about, but then you don't have really, like, don't give yourself the permission to actually do that, right? And also in this chart, I still have gate 50 defined. So I have, 3 of these teaching markers. And like I said, 2 of them in very prominent points, right, in my north nodes. And now the other thing, which I think is the most important for me, where if I'm going to be very honest with myself, also creates this deep resonance for myself with True Sidereal at this point, is that I have an undefined throat center. Because I constantly respond. I let things come to me, also what I talk about. And I really do best when I ask people questions and then they ask me something and then I respond to that. Or on this podcast here, you may have noticed this, listening to me for all these years now. When I have a guest on my podcast, I always used to say that Can I reflect this back to you? That's really the undefined throat center, because anything that's undefined is always reflecting something back. And also, I remember growing up when I was with certain friends sometimes, they used to say certain words a lot. And everybody's a little bit different. And when I spend a lot of time with a particular person that said a certain thing a lot, I used to pick it up very quickly. So I sometimes was like, well, what's really my own voice? Because I would easily mold into somebody else's way of speaking. And that is definitely much more aligned with what we learn about the energy of the undefined throat center. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Because oftentimes we think that it's bad or that we imitate people in some way. But for me, it's actually a great joy to, read something and then I share it with you as a reflection of how I see it and express it in my own words, which is still going to be very, very different. So, with all of that, I have to say that the undefined throat center definitely has greater resonance with me. And obviously, I could say, well, yeah, maybe when you had the tropical chart, you were just trying to tell yourself that. But that's all I knew at the time. And whatever I was looking for validation, it gave that to me at the time. And now that I'm so deeply into my human design experiment, following my sacral authority, which is the one thing that actually has stayed the same, is still the same authority. And it has led me to true sidereal astrology. It has led me to cosmic true sidereal human design, I think, for a reason, because now I'm somehow ready for this chart. And what is also very interesting is that the majority of work that I have been doing, like energetic work, has been on my throat chakra. Like literally for years when I was doing this energy healing work, I felt like I have energy stuck in my throat. And I grew up with a goiter. I still have that a little bit, but it was much stronger when I was in my teenager years. I still have pictures, I think on my German driver's license, like I have this like big clump here on my throat. And I used to feel as a child almost like I have a little tennis ball there. And now as an adult, I have to say, and especially having done all this energetic healing work, it has gotten so much better. I no longer feel like this tightness there. Here and there, it's still occurring, but it's way, way, way less. And that's also something, because when we look at a human design chart, so I have a large split in my cosmic human design chart, because I have the head and ajna defined, and then the undefined throat center, and then an undefined will and an undefined solar plexus, and everything else is defined. But the one center that is in that large split is the throat center. And that's where we say in human design, we can experience the most conditioning. So where we may have the most deconditioning work to do. And without a doubt, in my body, in my mind, and my soul, I can tell you that that has definitely been my throat center, actually learning to speak my truth. I mean, for so many years, I was so afraid to say what I want, to speak my truth, because I'm also a person that has always had a huge fear of rejection growing up. And this is something that in my tropical chart, I found validation for in my undefined or completely open solar plexus. With the open solar plexus, you can feel so much, right? And when you feel people's emotions, let's say somebody gets angry, you want to avoid it and you don't want to have people get upset at you. So also gate 19 is defined in my tropical chart being highly sensitive. So there were those validation here. And now in my cosmic human design chart, I still have an undefined solar plexus. So this element is still there. And now I have gate 6 defined, actually conscious and unconsciously. Actually, it's 3 times in my chart now. And especially in the gene keys, the gene key 6, it talks about this, that in particular, this is the fear of rejection there. So, and with an undefined solar plexus, when we have a hanging gate, it can be even more of a challenge sometimes to overcome these shadows. So here, again, I find that validation for this fear of rejection here. And like I said, in my tropical chart, it was more from the completely open solar plexus, and then also from the 4 line, because I'm a 2-4 profile in tropical, and the 4 line has this very deep, deep fear of rejection. come up, right? But now here in my True Sidereal chart, I'm a 5-1, so I no longer have that 4 line in my profile, but I have that hanging gate 3 times, gate 6 in the chart, which is all about the fear of rejection. And then my love for money or talking about money, I still find this in my chart now, my True Sidereal, because of that hanging gate 45, also my North Node now. And I still have that 214 channel. And now it was unconscious in my tropical chart, but now in my True Sidereal or cosmic human design chart, it is conscious. So it's in black lines here. So this is just something that I find super interesting. I find super fascinating. And also, I hope it helps you listeners also understand that, again, every chart that you encounter, if that is your regular birth chart and tropical, now the True Sidereal, we can run so many other charts. You can run your solar return charts, you can run your Uranus opposition chart, you can run your Chiron return chart, right? It will always give you a little bit of a different theme. We always say that your birth chart is your baseline, but just like in astrology as well, you have your natal chart. And while you may have your sun in a certain sign, like I'm a Capricorn in True Sidereal, now, it doesn't mean that all the other signs don't matter for me, right? Because we also in astrology have all of the charts. Even if there is a sign and a house and you don't have any planet there, you can still look at the ruler there. And then we have progressions. We have progressed moons and progressed sun and all these kind of things. And they're highly accurate. I'm studying this right now with the True Sidereal astrology. So we are ever evolving beings. And I think just to look at one chart and stay stuck with that or make this mean about something, especially when you feel like it's constricting you, right? As long as it's giving you permission to be yourself, I think it's really fantastic. On my own journey, what I had noticed in the last year when I was, still working a lot with my tropical chart, that I felt that I had outgrown it. And I even remember in my weekly newsletter that I sent to you beautiful humans, maybe you're on it, maybe you read it every week. If not, get on there. Just hop over to my website, at the bottom, you can sign up for it. I was always sharing a little section, or still am, what did I learn about my human design and gene keys? And at some point I felt like, well, I feel like I don't really need to look at my chart anymore. Like I got this, right? In some way. And then it was very interesting for me that soon after, this whole topic of sidereal and true sidereal came into my world. And then all of a sudden was like, no, here you go. You have a whole new chart to look at. Now let's start from the beginning. And very different themes, very different topics. And also one thing is now I have a defined head in Ajna. And that is very interesting for sure, because I felt sometimes disempowered by the undefined head in Ashna. So this has been helping me recently more step into my own certainty, which I have to be honest also is something that definitely I have gone through a little bit of conditioning, not trusting myself, even though with a defined Ashna. But just like right now, I do feel like I'm in the essence of that energy because I can just talk and let things flow through me, right? Is that channel 6447. So, and even like without having any kind of notes, because at some point I was telling myself I need to have notes to talk, but I have noticed with practice, when I really surrender into being of service, speaking from my heart, it really flows, and it flows very beautifully. And literally, like this podcast episode, I just put these 2 charts on here. I didn't take any notes, and I set an intention before I hit the record button. So the other thing is that in my tropical chart, I have an undefined root center. And in my true sidereal chart, I have a defined root center. One thing that is very interesting to me is that people have always told me for years, Analena, you're so grounding, you're so calming. That would be more like a defined root, or also more earth elements in the astrology part. In my tropical chart, though, I have an undefined root, and I have mostly air signs in my chart, actually like a trine, all in air signs. And I could relate to that because of communication. Podcasting is definitely more like an air sign kind of quality. But overall, I really feel more like this grounding element force for the world for people. And when I pulled my True Sidereal astrology chart, and now also the human design chart, when I have a defined root center, a very defined root center with 2 channels connected there, and also this trine in my chart now moved all into earth signs versus before all air signs. But my North Node is still in Gemini now, which before was in Cancer. So I still have that communication element, which is also now in 3rd house, my Sun, which before was in the 2nd house. But overall, the whole combination of everything fits better for me. It clicks, deeper level of resonance than what I had felt before with my tropical human design chart. The other thing that also is very, very true for me is, so in human design, we say that when you have a channel connected from the root center to the spleen, that no matter what your human design type is, especially also if you're a projector, for example, you can have this, that it's very important to do a lot of physical activity, because the root center is this pressure center, there's this adrenaline energy, and that flows to the spleen. The spleen is the center for your health and well-being. And if we don't move this energy, it really can impact our well-being. And I have to be very honest that when I don't move my butt, when I don't physically exercise, I get very lethargic. And I actually got to the point with a defined root center. For some time, it felt good. But I think then at some point I went to the extreme where I felt like I need to take a break. I need to take a nap. I need to rest. But then I wasn't exercising enough. So I felt even more lethargic. And when I was doing the half marathon training for a little while and also going to the gym more, I really noticed like, wow, I feel so much better. And now seeing actually on the chart, like you have actually 2 centers fully blown, connected through 2 channels, right? The root to the spleen through 2 channels, the 1858 and the 2838 channel. So for me, it's extra important to be physically active, which really helped me to see this part. And in a way, I feel like it's the universe communicating with me through my chart. Hey, this physical activity, yeah, you really need to do that more. It's extra important for you. So this is just how I'm receiving this wisdom, without letting it box myself in any way or form, and really allowing myself to expand into the highest expression of who I am. And I find it quite beautiful. The other thing is I still have a defined G center. You see now I'm actually going into almost all of the elements in my chart. And that, I have to say, feels true overall, because I always have felt a very strong sense of direction. Like I know where I'm going, even though I have no idea how I'm going to get there. And obviously both charts have the 214 channel defined. In my tropical chart, my incarnation cross was also in that channel, the right angle cross of the Sphinx, which I still resonate a lot with. And now my incarnation cross is, I think it's called the cross of individuation, or I actually have to look it up the exact, but it's about being your most authentic self, basically. Who are you as an individual, right? And how we're all being different. And that also obviously resonates a lot with me, and also being a little bit provocative, which I always honestly feel like I have been all my life. And sometimes I have had situations with people where, I was just being myself, being super nice, and just kind of got so triggered by just my mere presence. And with that gate 39 in my unconscious earth now, also gate 51 is my unconscious earth. So conscious earth is 39, unconscious earth is 51. That's a bit of a provocative energy, right? Even I think what I'm doing here right now with talking about True Sidereal, while almost the rest of the world, or the majority of people, are using tropical human design, right? It's probably a little bit aggravating for people. They may not like it, especially if we have been with something that we so easily buy into as this is the truth, right? And I love because especially with this Gemini in my North Node, I always look at different perspectives. I'm like, okay, it can be this or this. And I do this all the time. Also with all the polarities we have in the world. So it can be this and it can also be that. It's actually something that comes easy to me. And this is why I always resonated in a tropical chart so much with the undefined ajna, because the undefined ajna, we say, yeah, you find it easy to have different perspectives. And even though I have a defined ajna right now, I still have to say it comes very easy to me to look at different perspectives, but I have my view on things, especially how I see human design and gene keys. Like I have my view on it. I'm very certain about that. And this kind of perspective of looking at from different perspectives, I find this now in my North Node in Gemini. You know, I think it's always that, yeah, we just need something that confirms that so that you actually give yourself permission to be who you really are. And yeah, this is just a little bit of my own personal reflections about my chart. Obviously, there's more I could talk about. And I invite you also, if that speaks to you, right? Because maybe you're right now, like I have no resonance whatsoever with my true sidereal cosmic chart, and that's okay. There's no right or wrong, like I said. But if you do feel maybe that the tropical chart has not allowed you to fully step into your power, fully stepped into your true gifts and talents that are still maybe hidden deep inside, well, maybe give it a go. Maybe there's something that gives you that final spark of confirmation you were looking for. And I do offer now also more readings with that, where I look at your true sidereal charts. And if you listen to this in the month of May, I also currently have a little special. And you can just click on the link in the show notes if you would like to book your own reading. And so here we're going to look more in depth at your true sidereal chart. And if you wish, we can also look a little bit at your tropical chart, because I'm going to pull both of them anyways, but there's going to be a main focus on the true sidereal and really to help you to feel into what is your truth, right? I'm not here to tell you that, oh, it has to be the true sidereal or cosmic human design chart. It's about what resonates the most with you. That is honestly the most important. And any and all of these beautiful spiritual tools, all these personality tools we have, I mean, we have thousands of different things out there, right? The only purpose, again, it's so important to really make the point here, is it's simply a tool for you to trust yourself more, to give yourself permission to be your most boldest, authentic self, because you have some gifts. And even if you're listening right now, like, yeah, well, I'm not sure. Yeah, you do have some gifts, some very specific gifts. Nobody can do it like you. Even if you're doing the same thing than me, like you're teaching human design and stuff, I can't do it like you, because also you can't do it like me, right? We are so different. And when we hold this back, I truly believe is that's when we cut off ourselves from the abundance of the universe. When we succumb to the fears, when we succumb to, oh, what are other people going to think about me, or do people understand me, or whatever. No, what matters is that you have the courage to be who you are, to speak your truth, and to share those gifts that you have. And again, most likely you don't see those gifts. That's why I love doing human design readings, because I'm here to remind you so you get it and it clicks. And when you do that, because I think that's all life is trying to get you to do. And I think the more we resist it, the more the universe puts kind of like barriers in front of us or makes things harder, because we just don't get it. We don't see it. And it, in a way, wants to wake us up until we finally like, okay, I know what it is. And it's usually the thing that kind of comes easy to you. It just kind of falls into your lap, but it still gets you uncomfortable, because it does mean you have to work through some fears. It does mean you have to get a little bit out of your comfort zone. And the voice is always going to be there telling you you're not good enough, or it's not the right time, or you're not ready. I have heard from so many super successful people out there that's still happening for them. So obviously that, or apparently, never really goes away. You have the power to decide, right? You have the power to decide to be a victim of the fears and the voices in your head, or you have the power to choose to be your best self. You have the power to choose to share your gifts with the world and have the courage to step into new territory, right? Because that's really when you follow your body, your human design, just like me following my body's wisdom, which means like following my sacral authority in this case, it led me to True Sidereal. Like I said earlier, I was like, well, maybe I shouldn't do it because what are people gonna say? I'm gonna probably upset a lot of people, or people are gonna argue against me. And some have, some people tell me like, yeah, you got it wrong. Tropical is the way and always will be. And I'm like, okay, great. I honor your opinion, but I get to have my own, right? There is no one truth out there. I have my truth, you have your truth. And I think the biggest service we can give to each other is to accept each other's truth and convictions and opinions. And also understand that just because this is my opinion right now does not have to be your opinion. So with that, question things, even everything that I just said, right? This is my experience. Yours can be totally different. And I can tell you that from my own experience, especially on social media, this is not even talking about human design right now. When there are people that have a very strong opinion about something, I find that actually very attractive. And it has also triggered me a lot in the past because I know that's something I want for myself. And I do notice the more I step into that, the more confident I become. However, I still have to be very discerning who I listen to because I feel I'm still vulnerable to others people's opinions myself. While I'm telling you to be discerning myself, I have to tell this to myself because it's so easy. I'm actually going to call it right now, like, uh, get brainwashed in some way. Like, yeah, they said this is the thing. And like, give you an example with astrology. Again, this is my experience. I have followed tropical astrology for all my life. I mean, not very closely because I never really felt that great of a resonance in all these horoscopes and things, or what we should be feeling in the sky. I was always like, well, maybe not really, but okay. And I never even questioned any of that. Like, oh, that's what it is. The sun is in this sign and da da da. And then I learned about true sidereal astrology. And I learned that if I look actually in the sky, that's not what's in the sky. And I was like, what? It really was such a big aha moment for me. That was like, we're just blindly believing this and we never dared to look into the sky. That's why I'm so thankful to Ethan Chimenti, because he dared to look into the sky and he was like, oh, that's really interesting. The sun is actually not where they say it is. It's like a sign before that. And so just bringing this awareness to you, don't just believe things. Come up with your own truth and what feels right to you. And that's really, again, all that matters. So I think I elaborated a little bit further beyond my human design chats, but this is what wanted to come out of me today. And I always love that because I think it's wisdom that you need to hear, that I need to remind myself of. And ultimately, my goal is, as always, that you step into your highest calling, that you share your gifts with the world. Let me tell you, it's also going to open up a lot of abundance for you in terms of money and all these things. And if you need help with that, with your money mindset and how you feel about money, I also have the Conscious Money Collective. That's an amazing membership, super affordable. I'm going to also put the link into the show notes. We have a super active, engaged community. We also do lots of Gene Keys contemplations in there as well, besides the money work. So yeah, just wanted to mention that as well. And as always, I so appreciate you for your time, for being here with me. And I'm very excited to be with you all on the next episode.